What is Al Pacino? Like, do you know, is he Italian?
I have no idea. I like everyone else, I think I assume he's Italian American, but I don't know if he actually is. Pretty Welsh.
Yeah, right.
Al Pacino.
Hey-oh!
Wow, what was that?
That's Al Pacino from Scent of a Woman.
I thought that was your Welsh accent.
No.
Right.
It's another Al Pacino catchphrase.
Okay. Right.
Hooah!
Yeah,
Hooah.
that one I know. Right,
Hooah.
we're going to stop with Pacino now because it's annoying. Hello and welcome to the Magic Morning Word. And my name is Clive Davis and his name is
Ron Scott.
And
I've been told to speak in a lower voice.
Right.
I'm speaking like this now.
And this week...
Because I've been told I'm shrill.
You are a bit shrill, Ron, but I forgive you.
Taming of the shrill.
The Taming of the Shrill. Very good. Someone should write a play about that. So I feel this week in the Wood, which is where we talk films, I should actually apologise up front to Ron. I had what
I don't
seemed...
accept your apology.
Okay, well, fuck you then. So what seemed like a good idea at the time, but in retrospect is just... No, it's
Quite
like
a terrible idea.
Yeah, it's like, you know, if you're considering sticking your cock in a vacuum cleaner or something like that.
You should say, don't do that.
Yeah, don't do it.
Smack your hand.
Yes.
The back of your hand. Don't do that.
So somehow I had the idea that this episode is entitled "Catching Up with Steven," which is of course
Steven
Seagal.
Seagal, yes, our friend Steven.
Yes.
Seagal.
And the concept behind this was, hey, I haven't seen what that goofy kid Steven Seagal has been up to for a while. I haven't seen the last few films. Let's just jump in and watch the last 3 films that he's in.
No.
There's no need to bring this up.
No. Let me jump in here. Your idea, if I remember correctly, was to watch the last 4 films.
I am guilty of that. Yeah. Luckily,
I was understandably reluctant to say
yes.
4 films. Are you sure you want to watch 4 of his
right.
films? And you're like, yes, absolutely. You had this big shit-eating grin on your face. Yes, 4 films. Let's need 4. And I was like, I'm not sure 4. No, it has to be 4. Okay,
right.
so I was like, well, why 4? And you're like, it's the magic number.
Yes.
So we go home.
I speak in that weird, raspy, demonic voice when I'm not on the show.
Yeah, that's my Welsh accent. So
that's very good.
So we go home and we find links for the most recent 4, or 4 of the most recent ones, and one doesn't work for me. It's quite slow. It's called End of a Gun, and I couldn't get it to work. It was like overnight. It only had like a very small.
I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about illegal?
No. I was on iTunes, I believe. Anyway, so but anyway, I could not get the file, the legally obtained file
on iTunes to work. Right.
And so I emailed and I said, are you sure we have to do 4? Could we maybe just do 3? And you're like, okay. And you said, all right, fine. Okay, we can just do 3.
Let me just translate what you just said.
And then later you're
into
saying,
legalese.
Thank you so much for making it 3 instead of 4.
In that voice.
That's your other voice.
Into legalese, what Ron means to say is we went to the local DVD rental shop and End of a Gun was out.
Right.
So we rented the other 3.
Our copy was scratched and didn't work.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Safe.
Yes, absolutely.
So
So the idea was this will be fun, and a little bit of nostalgia for me as well, just because not so much instant, but when I was writing my book, I watched a shitload of like.
Well, you mentioned your book to your.
I don't like to.
What is the name of your book?
I don't like to. It's called The Spine Grinder. We're available in all good bookstores from Head Press. But I don't like to.
It's called the what?
It's just a Spine Grinder.
Spine Grinder.
Yes. Yeah. There we go.
Spine Grinder.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Spine Grinder.
Hey,
yeah.
feel free. You got a
Head,
podcast.
Yeah. But I don't like to mention it.
Promote yourself.
I don't like to
Go
mention
for
it.
Yeah,
the book that I wrote.
It's a movie.
Yeah.
it's a podcast about movies. It's a book about movies.
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
read
but
it.
I don't like to mention it. But
Right.
but it is out there.
It is out there, and
yeah,
it's called
you can buy
it's
it.
called the Spine
That's
Grinder. You
Spine
should buy
Grinder.
it. Go on
Yeah,
Amazon.
it's
I
really
have
good.
one.
Yeah,
I never
you should
read it.
buy
I haven't read
copies
it, but
for all your friends
bought it
and
all.
family as well.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Anyway,
but I don't like to mention it.
Right.
That's the thing.
right. Also, I think you were in a movie called Judge once.
I don't like to mention that either. Anyway, enough of this comedy gold, Ron. Yeah, so I watched a shitload of these direct-to-video action things from the 90s and
Right.
2000s, and I haven't for a long time. I've kind of moved on, I suppose. At a certain point, that you run out of patience. You've just
Right.
seen too many of these things,
Right.
and there's too many other things. But every now and again, I get the feeling, I'd like to know what's going on in the world of direct-to-video,
Right.
crap action
Right.
movies, and sometimes you have a bit of fun with one
Yeah.
that's so bad it's good or whatever. And of course, Steven Seagal is always good for a laugh.
Right.
So there were reasons, but the reasons weren't good enough. So that's why I'm apologizing for having put you through 3 Steven Seagal films
Right.
in a row.
And I'm trying to find.
What you looking for?
Oh,
there,
here
Ron?
it is. I just wanted to read a text that you sent to me.
Okay.
While we were
All right.
both watching the movies.
Okay.
Next time I propose a Seagal fest, shoot me in the head.
Yeah, there
I just
we
wanted
go.
just to read
Right.
that text out to
Yes.
me. So, okay, so that was basically what happened. And so
Yes.
we what 3 movies did we watch, Clive?
Yes, so now that I'm suitably contrite, let's go ahead and introduce...
So actually, before we go into the 3 movies, I do
Yeah.
want to say one thing. And I had
you.
I had an aha moment.
I want a divorce.
No, I had watching these 3 movies, and this choice of, I guess, a theme,
Yeah.
was was a bit of a eureka moment for me about you. I had
that's not good.
I had an epiphany, and I have.
Well,
I,
hang on, hold the presses. I think this is the first time anyone's ever had an epiphany watching a Steven Seagal film.
you'd be surprised. So watching these 3 movies, and at the same time, just to give a little bit of behind the scenes on the Magic Morning Wood.
Very uncomfortable.
Yeah, we were also watching the 2 movies from our last episode on movies we hate that other people love.
Yes, Call Me by Your Name and Scarface.
all at the same time. Basically, we were watching
Yes.
this within the same period of time.
Yes, because there's a bit of a time coming up where we can't record,
Yeah,
so
so
we're
we're
recording a
recording-
few things back to back.
Right. So basically, we're watching 5 movies.
Yeah.
In the span of a week.
Yeah.
At least 4 of which are bad for us.
Yes, yes,
Right,
yes,
So,
yes.
so
I mean, we didn't know
or
that.
at least 1 is bad, and for each of us,
Yeah.
and then we had these 3 others, which we
Which are
had
good.
had a feeling that maybe were not that good, but
Yes.
they might be fun to watch, right?
Yeah,
Which
possibly.
generally, when you think of Steven Seagal, you think of, oh, it's probably not that good, but it might be fun, might be interesting to watch.
Yeah, or at
right?
least he'll be kind of stupid enough
Right,
in it.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
But of course, these movies are just abysmal, just abysmal.
Yeah, pretty
and
much.
so finally, it occurred to me, and I think that I understand you on another level that
really?
I haven't before in the many years of our friendship. That I now understand, and I actually have an actual diagnosis for you.
Okay.
And I think
this is interesting.
I think you are,
Yeah.
and I'm going to create a brand new diagnosis for you
Okay.
for the DSM-4.
Yes, I can't wait.
You are a cinematic masochist.
Do you think?
Yes, I think you are. I think that it's something. So I think that you.
You know I didn't enjoy these.
No. But I think you put yourself, because if you add into the fact that you also chose Scarface, which you don't like, which is
Yeah.
also 3 hours long.
Right.
So of all the movies you don't like that you could have chosen, you chose Scarface, 3 hours long, and at the same time. I'm going to watch a 3-hour movie that I hate. Let's also watch another 6 hours of also terrible movies. Just adding 1 movie that you hate was not enough for you. You had to add as many more hours of shitty movies on top of it as you can. So I think it's actually something about you where you almost need to punish yourself with films.
Interesting diagnosis.
Yeah.
However, I would say it's not so much being a cinematic masochist. I think this may be the big difference between you and me, for example.
Okay.
Is I think you watch movies primarily to be entertained.
Okay.
and I don't.
Okay. What do you watch movies for? To flay yourself.
Well, no.
To punish yourself for your sins.
But certainly, when I sit there, apart from, let's say, for instance, on a weekend, and I
was a bad boy. I need to watch a Steven Seagal movie to make up for it. My penitence.
Same if I'm sitting down on the weekend with a feast in front of me and a bottle of red wine, and it's my time to relax.
Right.
I will then usually choose a movie that I really want to see.
Okay.
Like, that's my one movie of the week, of the whatever 10 or so films I watch. That's the one that's like, okay, I'm making a deliberate choice to choose something I'm going to enjoy watching. Okay. But the rest of the time, that's not how I choose films. Whereas I'm guessing you probably choose films.
So what do you choose for?
I see it as like a job, I guess. I'm
job.
I see movies to further my knowledge of movies and to write about, and it's like solving a puzzle or something.
Okay. So you don't think?
But I do, of course, I enjoy some of them. But I don't. It's not like I'm not gonna not watch something. I certainly don't not watch something because I think I won't enjoy it. Or I don't think it'll be good.
You don't think that the primary purpose of film is to entertain?
I didn't say that. I'm talking about me.
Okay, but do you agree that
film
of course. Is meant for entertainment?
Yeah,
right?
of course. Yeah.
Okay, so are you saying that I'm wrong for expecting to be entertained?
No. I'm saying you're. Yeah, that's what most people do, and as they should. Okay. Because why else would you watch?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you think of it as a job, right?
It's a task. I get. Okay, let's put it this way then. I do get entertainment and enjoyment out of these films, but as part of the entire package of watching, researching, putting things together, writing it, that whole thing is fun for me.
Right.
So it's not like I'm sitting there. It's not like a grind. I'm fucking writing because of course that would be stupid because I'm not even making any money off it really. Right. So I think it's the actual watching of the films is only one component.
Okay.
So that's why, for example, I tend to not watch a lot of big new releases recently, even though they probably will entertain me, but that's all they'll do. There's no fuel for me to do anything creative. So if I go and see like one of the Avengers films, for example, there's nothing about it. It might be really.
How are the Avengers filmed, by the way, Gino?
Oh yeah. I won't. There's a good chance I'll sit there and enjoy it, but I know by the time it's finished, there's no impetus for me to write anything about it, because there's nothing. There's no mystery to solve. There's 100 squillion other reviews straight away on the day of release, and it's part of the zeitgeist, and I won't have anything new to say about it. So therefore, I don't have that side of it.
Okay.
So just pure entertainment is not something I'm looking for. But you do.
So don't you think? I posit to you that by making watching films a job that you don't get paid for, and choosing specifically films which you probably won't enjoy or be entertained by.
Well, that last bit's slightly contentious.
But you said.
But in this case.
But in this case, choosing. But you said you don't watch films for entertainment, right? And if you entertain, it's sort of like a icing. It's like a happy accident. But you don't choose films that you will enjoy, generally speaking.
Well, no, that's not quite true either. Let's say there's so many different types of movies out there that, of course, I dwell on certain specific genres or type of films or films from certain places or from certain eras, which I know I will. There's a difference between I'll get a kick out of or kind of find interesting rather than wall-to-wall. Like, I have no problem with being bored by a film.
Okay.
Except
it's Scarface.
Yeah, because that was boring. that was boring in a very there's different types of boring. It was very plain and boring.
Right.
But I can sit through a movie that's just quite boring. But if there's like one thing that jumps out, or then it's and it's fuel for me to write about.
Okay.
If it feeds the creative process,
Right.
then it's worth my while.
Okay, so you look at film as a spark for creativity for yourself.
I suppose so, but that's become more apparent in the last few. I don't think that was always the case, but I think that was probably always there.
Okay.
But I've become more aware of it in recent years. That's why I kind of I tend to. I don't bother with certain things. It doesn't mean I don't think they have worth, or it's just something for me has to trigger, the input, and there has to be some output. If it's just input, if I just sat down and just watched films and didn't write about them,
okay.
so that's why I stopped watching a lot of big major releases stuff, because not that they weren't good or anything, it's just there was nothing coming out the other end.
Right.
So I just felt kind of, I don't know, bloated and wasted my time. Yeah.
Nothing coming out the other end.
Yeah, exactly. Creatively constipated.
Okay.
Whereas Steven Seagal is the creative suppository, I guess. No, actually, it turned out not to be. But are you done with your diagnosis?
No, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I did at least not only an epiphany, but I had some questions because I mean, of course, you've had chosen some movies over the course of this podcast, which I've vehemently hated, right? Just disliked, or it didn't. I was more of a question mark as to why you would choose something like this, or why would you choose to spend your time like this?
But so those films I did enjoy. So for instance, well, for instance, I know this is unfathomable for you, but I wasn't lying when I said I thoroughly enjoyed Bat Pussy.
Okay.
I mean, I
right.
did.
Yeah, I can tell you did.
And I would watch it again.
Did you enjoy International Gorillas?
I enjoyed sections of International Gorillas. Yeah, I found them interesting. But that is a long haul, and I've made it twice now. I'm not sure if I'm in a mad rush to do it a third time.
Right.
But I'd rather watch that than Scarface.
Right.
Certainly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it seems to me like, if I were to give myself a job that I chose for myself, that didn't give me any enjoyment in my life out of it.
But I do, though.
But you do, right? So that's what I think.
Yeah.
So, but it seemed to me that you were choosing movies that were not entertaining, but it almost seemed like it was like self-flagellation, you know what I mean?
Right.
So
Well, it certainly would be if I were just watching them and that's it.
And that's it,
yeah.
Right? But you're actually doing something with it.
Yeah.
Will you write about Steven Seagal movies?
How do you mean?
Will these 3 Steven Seagal movies, will they inspire you to write something? Will you put them in your book?
No. However, they are feeding this episode of the podcast.
Right,
so that's another outlet. Sure. Right? Yeah. So it's all good. Yeah. So the films were, I guess we'll do them in order of release. Cartels, Attrition, and General Commander.
Right.
Okay. So the first one was Cartels, 2016, an US Monaco co-production. I noticed, which is kind of you don't see that often. Yeah. I'm guessing a tax dodge of some.
Right. Yeah.
AKA killing.
Or just so independent that they can't afford to make any other movies.
Right. AKA Killing Salazar, directed by Steven Seagal's director of choice in recent years. I've noticed this guy Keone Waxman, who was an executive producer, as was Steven Seagal. Shot in Romania, and co-starring Luke Goss, formerly of. Are you familiar with Bros?
No.
Oh, Bros, as in abbreviated brothers. BROS.
Oh,
yeah.
Bros.
No, it was Bros.
Bros.
Yeah,
okay.
Believe it or not.
Right. Okay.
Bros were 2 twin brothers, pop sensations in the 80s in the UK.
Okay.
I don't think they were big in North
actual
America.
Singers, you mean?
Yeah.
He was one of them. He's a singer.
Yes, and actually there was a documentary recently. It was quite good fun called "When the Screaming Stopped," which was them kind of attempting to get back together to play like Wembley Arena or something, like one of these nostalgia, tours.
Right.
And that was quite amusing to see Luke and his brother Matt Goss, because I'll give you an example. It had that Spinal Tap feel to it, like Anvil,
right.
where it was like, is this
Real?
Yeah,
Is this real? Is this
there's a fine line between clever and
Right,
stupid.
right.
But like someone says something like, Rome wasn't built in a day, but we haven't got Rome's time. That kind of thing, delivered straight faced.
gold.
Yeah. I think you might enjoy,
Okay.
even if you've never heard of Bros.
It's called Bros?
No, it's called When the Screaming Stops or
Okay.
Stopped. I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's quite good. It's got a lot of buzz.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So anyway, he's the guy,
Right.
the skinhead fellow.
Right, yeah,
so
yeah.
he's kind of being interrogated, right?
Right.
Because
Steven Seagal actually is a kind of a small role in this. He's not even the main character. It seems that Luke
Yeah.
is more the main character.
I think finally, after years of people making fun of him running around, overweight,
Right.
running like a girl, and clearly having action
Well,
stand-ins.
It obviously hasn't, because this was the first one. The other two, he
No, I know,
was
I
the
know.
main character.
But
so-
I think for a while there was a bunch of these films where it was him and he was like the leader of like a team or
Yes.
something.
Well, that seemed to be the theme in all of them.
Yes,
today.
yeah.
Or all, maybe not attrition, but
So I
like
think
a little bit in attrition.
I finally
Where it's him
see
and a
the-
team, and the team
Yeah.
of beautiful people. They do most of the more of the work,
Right,
and he's just sort of
right.
like the badass that runs it. Right.
So even Steven Seagal is self-reflexive enough at this point
Right.
to have figured out that, he doesn't cut it
Right.
as an action hero,
Anymore.
not as a fat man in his mid-60s.
But he's still, of course, he's still doing all the action and all the stunts, and he's still doing.
a
He
little
still
bit.
ends up taking out the bad guy single-handedly.
Oh yeah.
Of course.
His ego wouldn't
Yes, of course.
handle anything else. So the plot, as it is.
Do we really need to go
In this much detail?
This much detail about these movies? I
Yeah,
think
we are
it's-
running out of
I
time.
think-
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really think people really care that much. I don't.
Well, okay, very briefly
Very
then.
briefly, yeah.
It's basically he's being interrogated. It's Luke Goss plays a DEA agent,
Uh-huh.
right? And there's a drug lord
Mm-hmm.
who's they cleverly make him half Colombian, half Russian, right?
Right.
Which means that the Romanian actor Florin Piersic Jr., who I think is actually quite. He was. Did you ever see that series, Comrade Detective?
No.
He's on that.
Okay.
And yeah, so they cleverly make him half Russian, so that means you're not wondering why this man called Salazar speaks like this in the whole movie.
I for the most of the movie, I thought he was putting on that accent.
Right, no.
But it was quite.
Yes.
But he's actually Romanian.
Let
so-
me just get my sombrero and eat some tacos because I am thoroughly Latin American. No doubt about it.
He sounded like Yakov Smirnoff. Or was that?
That's John Malkovich in Rounders.
Yeah, that one's
Mr. Son of a bitch, let's play some cards. Yeah. So anyway, this guy. So yeah, this Salazar. He's supposed to be dead, but actually he's being smuggled out of the country so he can stand trial.
Sure.
Right. What the shit, as one character says. That's an actual line. And yeah, something goes wrong and he manages to escape. So basically, Lucas is being interrogated by Steven Seagal because it's an inside job.
Right.
Boom, that's about it. And there's lots of boring shootouts.
Mm-hmm.
And your favourite line, what was it? The
It's
Steven?
like, I wasn't born on a turnip truck.
A fucking turnip man.
Turnip truck man. Right. He has this whole long monologue where he's like, "This is the real shit, man. This is what we're doing. You see me, you're in trouble. This is it." He's like, there's like 10 minutes of him saying how badass he is, right?
Right.
Because I wasn't born on a fucking turnip truck, man. I was like, what is happening? What are we talking about?
Right. And that is the highlight of the film.
Yeah.
The rest of it, pretty boring.
Yeah.
You, Sam?
Yeah. I'd say of the three movies, this had the most like ridiculous laugh out loud moments. As I said, there's a couple times where I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like they're
Right.
like really bad writing or acting or just ridiculous kind of stunts. And it turns out this one actually had played at a little bit of like a twist ending where the girl. The love interest ended up being like
Right.
involved, the daughter the whole time. I mean, they made an attempt at least at more of a coherent story with this one, I guess.
We could
but,
AKA the usual turnips.
yes. But it was, yeah. I mean, of the three, I'd say this one was the most enjoyable, and that's saying a lot.
Okay. I'm not sure which was. I think I probably preferred our next one a little bit.
Really?
Just because it was more ridiculous.
Oh.
And
this one, this is Attrition, right?
Attrition. Yeah.
Attrition. I have to be honest. I had a really hard time paying attention to this.
Okay.
I put it on and I sort of started doing other things while it was on, and I was
I
trying.
don't blame you.
I was trying really hard to focus, but like a good 50% of this movie was in Mandarin Chinese. So I was like, I didn't know what was happening most of the time. There's no subtitles. I was like, I don't know what's happening. And even if I did know the subtitles, I'm sure I still wouldn't know what's going on. And I certainly would care, right? So,
AKA Final Mission, 2018 Thai, Hong Kong, UK, US co-production. And what's special about this one? It's written by Steven Seagal.
Oh yes.
So it's
you can see a lot of like posing and
all his
philosophizing and
sentimental
and,
Orientalist bullshit he likes, right?
Yeah. It was like all that shit. Yeah, like I could just hear his voice as he was writing.
Yeah.
Actually, he was reading it too, right?
Yes.
But you could just hear him like sitting in front of his computer, going, "Oh, this is great shit." Right?
In fact, did you? There's a great bit of trivia about this film. I don't know if you came across this one. Apparently, I looked this up. Apparently, this was true. Apparently, Steven Seagal was so pleased with the script, he wanted the Dalai Lama to read it.
Oh, really?
To the extent that he pestered the Dalai Lama so much that the Dalai Lama put a restraining order.
I did not know that.
Against Steven Seagal, which is reason enough to watch the film just to find that out.
Yeah, I guess so. But it was.
Yeah, so he's like some doctor living in. Well, he says Mulan, right? But I was looking at Mulan somewhere in northern China. But then he talks about being in the middle of Cambodia and Laos at some. He doesn't know where.
Somewhere in Asia.
Somewhere in his Orientalist bullshit dream world, basically, right?
Yes.
Where he's the sole white guy.
Asian fusion.
Yes. He's the sole white guy who does martial arts better than everyone else, who's wiser than everyone else, and he's also like he's the local doctor, right, who uses acupuncture, and all the poor people come.
Eastern medicine, and they'll go to the white guy to fix their problems, right?
Yeah. Ego much?
Yeah,
Steve?
Really, yeah. Obviously. and he has like, this one is all big about like the hand movements. I think he's realized that he looks pretty ridiculous when he kicks.
Yes.
And so now he's all about his hands now.
Yes.
There's all these like really like almost like hand dancing with these people.
Right.
And so it was a lot of like these like putting your hands together.
Yes.
And then like doing like it was always like playing patty cake with each other. And
he stands pretty stock still, right?
Yeah. And he does his hand stuff, right? So,
yeah. And it's a story about human trafficking.
Right.
Ostensibly.
I
yes.
guess.
Ting Sue gets stolen, and he has to.
And then at the very, very end, again, just like the other two movies, he gets a team together to fix
puts together
whatever problem it is that they're supposed to be fixing.
He puts together a team of people with names like Scarecrow and
Infidel. Infidel.
Yes.
And they actually, with the straight face, call each other, "Hey, Infidel." like, I heard you, Infidel. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, they're all like these young, really like. I totally saw this as like a low budget action sci-fi. Like any of these movies could have been like a really like a sci-fi.
As in Sci-Fi Channel.
Sci-Fi Channel,
right.
like television show, like the really like NCIS level, but like even like lower budget than that kind of thing. Just like these like random, and I believe one of the movies, maybe General Commander, I believe, was meant originally to be a short run TV series that ended up getting changed or something.
Well, in fact,
it had that feel to it, like this sort of he's the the commander of this sort of like this crack team of operatives and blah blah blah.
Bit of a Mission Impossible vibe, maybe,
sort of thing, right?
Especially to General Command. The link, of course, is this was produced by Bay Logan, who was apparently involved in the story for General Commander. Right. Bay Logan, I don't know if the name is familiar to you. Bay Logan is very famous. If you've been a fan of like Hong Kong action movies, Hong Kong cinema of the past 25, 30 years, he's one of the more famous commentators in the English language. He's written books and he's done some commentaries and stuff. And he knows his stuff. Yeah,
right.
I've heard a couple of his DVD commentaries, and he gives a lot of. He speaks very, very quickly, and he gives a lot of kind of context and background, and so he's quite good like that. But apparently, he was removed from this film for some sexual harassment allegations.
Oh, really?
Which is another thing he shares with Steven Seagal.
Steven Seagal himself, right?
Yeah. notorious.
And of course, it's interesting that every woman in all of these movies are all like model with big tits,
right?
And have never been in a movie before. So he's obviously like promising them something, or he's found them on the street or at a fashion show or something, and offered them this.
He's even been accused of human trafficking. Steven Seagal.
He does everything.
The only thing of note I want to say in this film, the other kind of leads, the Chinese guy who helps him, Siu Wong Fan, was the star of a movie called The Story of Ricky, or Ricky O, which some of you may know as this kind of fantastic, batshit crazy, violent Hong Kong movie based on a Japanese comic, which we may do on the show one day, actually. But I was quite surprised to see him turn up. And his real-life father, Fan Mei Sheng, is in as well, who's a Shaw Brothers actor. And for extra treat in this movie, Ron, just in case you haven't been entertained enough, during the end credits, you get to see...
Oh, this was probably my favorite moment.
Steven Seagal play blues guitar
while the cast dance.
Yes,
and it was quite obviously not meant to be his character doing it. It was obviously a cast party that they had filmed, and where he decided to get up and start playing guitar, and everyone was just dancing, and they're just out of character, themselves dancing to him. I was like, this is basically the pinnacle of egotism, right? I mean, like, there doesn't get any higher than this.
I'd like to imagine the everyone's wrapped, and they're like, okay, seriously, we're going, no, we got an extra day of filming.
One more to do. Right? I imagine that was like the rap party where he took the rap party and was like, no, we're not actually having a rap party. You're going to listen to me dance to me playing guitar, and it's going to be at the end of the movie.
It reminds me, it's a shame we don't really have time. I wanted to add just an extra 30 minutes of telling Steven Seagal stories and slanging out his... But it does remind me of the famous story about him, apparently some producer entered his trailer and he's like there reading the script and like weeping or something. This script is the most beautiful thing I've ever read in my life. It's amazing. Oh, who wrote it? I did. Again, it doesn't really matter how true these things are. You want them to be true, right?
Yeah.
It fucking might be attrition.
Yeah.
I can imagine him thinking he's being all mystical. And at the end of this episode, actually, I might have to track down, put a track off one of his albums.
He has a full album.
There's one, Songs from the Crystal Cave. Anyway, we've got 10 minutes here. Okay, right. So racing along to General Commander. This is from earlier this year. I guess it might have been filmed last year. UK, Philippine, Hungarian co-production this time. I guess Steve goes, where the money is.
Wherever he gets the money,
directed by Ross W. Clarkson and Philip Martinez.
I think all three, at least the last two, all are done by his own production company.
Steven is awesome.
Steamroller Productions,
right?
Which is obviously his because it's like the inside of like the chamber of a gun with a sword, and I was like, how could you get more cliched?
Right. So this one, this time he's a CIA agent, which of course in real life Steven Seagal claims to have
actually
been.
Be one, yeah. So
sure you were, Steve. So this time he's a CIA agent, and it's all about organ transplants, and they're being interrogated, him and his other CIA team, and they get disbanded, right, because some shootout goes wrong or something. But then they get the band back together again, same thing, right? And they go rogue, and I think this one was mostly shot in Manila, standing in for Bangkok.
Okay.
I think. This bored the fuck out of me as well.
God, it was so boring.
This might have been the worst one for me.
This was the first one I watched, and I was fascinated how you.
Sorry, Phnom Penh. It's supposed to be Phnom Penh,
right.
but it's Manila. Yeah.
I was fascinated how in all of his movies he could have so much action and like fighting and gunplay and stuff, but still be so atrociously boring.
Right.
It's a talent, I think. Yeah.
Yes. The only thing, actually, I forgot to mention, sorry to backtrack a bit, there's one briefly interesting scene in Attrition.
Okay.
I was actually quite shocked that there was anything interesting in it at all. There was one scene where they played backwards like someone being killed
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
okay.
ground down into fish food.
Yeah, right,
and they
right.
started with the fish food and then they went backwards to...
right.
I thought that was actually quite visually inventive, to be fair.
To be fair, I mean, taking Steven out of it,
Hmm.
I found all three movies had... I thought they were all fairly well shot.
Yeah, they're slick.
I thought they were very
Yeah,
slick looking.
yeah.
They obviously have a little bit of money to throw around. They
Yes,
do cameras.
that's true.
The directors seem to be relatively competent with working with what they have to work
Yeah.
with. You know,
Rudimentary skills
right,
to
yeah,
get it done
yeah, and
without too many speed
they're all
bumps.
like, if it wasn't for like the horrible scripts and the horrible acting,
Yes.
they would be watchable. You know what I mean? So,
Right,
but,
right.
But, yeah.
In this as well, the one bit I was is not as impressive with that. I was just slightly surprised, because it's all kind of the same kind of generic action. But then at some point during the climax, this helicopter gunship turns up.
Yeah.
And someone takes it out with a bazooka.
It was just
That was at least slightly jarring. I was like, okay, fair enough.
no idea why it was there.
No.
It was just like the script was just like it was just totally confusing. It made no sense, most of it, right?
Right,
It was like
right.
just random series of Stephen shitting on a page, you know.
Yeah. So, in case you were thinking of checking in with Steven Seagal, don't.
Don't.
We've done the heavy lifting for you.
You're welcome.
Just quickly before we run out of time here, are there any highlights in looking back over the whole Steven Seagal filmography? Was there any point in time where you thought he was quite...
The whole filmography, or just these three?
No, the whole looking back. Do you have fond Steven memories from back in the day?
I remember really liking the earlier ones, like when I was a kid, like Under
Right,
Siege,
right,
and
right.
like that whole era, when he was considered an action star.
Before you started eating pies and cakes for breakfast.
Before you, I remember I remember I was a big fan of Under Siege,
Right.
And the Eric Eleniak
Cake scene.
Oh
yes,
I remember that one.
There are a lot of videotapes doing the rounds out there where it gets all snowy, coming
at
up
that
to the
part,
cake
yes.
scene. Yeah.
I believe that was mine. There was. I remember like all those, like when he became the Steven Seagal. I remember enjoying those movies, you know.
Right.
And then he just became batshit crazy. Like, but here's the thing about Steven Seagal. This is what what I want to say about Steven Seagal.
Former CIA undercover operative
I
Steven
want to say
Seagal.
I envy Steven Seagal.
Okay.
I think Steven Seagal, fucking good for him. That guy is living his best life.
Right.
He's living his dream, man. This is what he wants his life to be. He's living it. He's doing it. Like,
Right.
He's an inspiration, I think. You know, it's like he's doing what he wants to do.
Are you taking the piss?
No, I'm serious. I'm dead serious in this. I was like, his movies are unwatchable. They're terrible. He's a fucking batshit crazy egomaniacal maniac. But he's living his life. He's living his best life. He's living his American Buddhist, Mongolian dream. Wherever he considers himself now, he's
Right.
living his dream, right?
Right.
You know, he's doing what he wants to do in his
Do you
life.
think
He makes me want to be a better person, you know, because I want to make shitty movies for myself too, right?
Do you think the Dalai Lama should reconsider sit down with Steven?
I was surprised by that. I heard Steven says that he's like best friends with the Dalai Lama.
Is that right?
I think he says that, doesn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah. I'm on Steve's side.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Dalai Lama, you should read that movie.
Yeah. Fucking Dalai Lama.
But I mean, like, his fucking
Steven
movies,
Seagal, kick your llama ass.
his movies are shitty, but he is loving his life. So good for him, man. You know.
How about his energy drinks?
Right? I've never tried them. I don't know.
I've heard they were pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they're probably full of sugar. If you look at them, right? So,
I don't know, but they were notoriously dreadful, apparently.
Right,
When
yeah.
Oh well, I would love to kick Steven Seagal around for the next 30 minutes, despite Ron's admiration for him.
I mean, I don't enjoy his movies at all. I would never want to ever watch his movies again. But I do envy him for living his best life. You know, I think he's apparently also a horrible person in real life as well, from many accounts.
Yes.
You know, but hey, he's who he wants to be, right? And good for him, you know what I mean? And he's not letting anyone stop. No one who says that he's a hack or a washed up or he's a shitty actor, a shitty writer, a shitty director, and stuff, that does not stop him. He does not give in to criticism. He does what he wants to do, and he does it to the best of his
Well
ability.
said. Well said.
So
Ron.
good for him.
Okay.
Good for him.
On the next episode of Morning Wood, we'll be in defense of Hitler and Pol Pot.
Before we finish, I want to hear.
Oh, yeah.
I want to hear one good Steven Seagal story.
One good
Yeah,
Steven
pick
Seagal.
your best, your favorite Steven Seagal.
Well, I already dropped a few. I would have. I don't know. I quite like the one about him challenging stuntman Gene DeBell. That he was like saying to him like he could kick his ass and with his martial arts and everything. And then apparently Gene DeBell put him in a chokehold until he shit himself. So another one, Stephen survives with dignity.
My favorite is I heard this story. I can't remember the context. I might be getting the story wrong, but it was something about he was talking to someone about like Buddhism and inner peace and all this stuff. And then at that point, like a production assistant came up and said something like his ex-wife was on the phone. And he was like, "Oh, inner peace," and he goes, "Fuck that picture." Something like that. That was my favorite.
So an inspiration to us all.
Good for you, Stephen.
See you next time.
Keep going.
See you next time for the Dolph Lundgren 5 movie special.
Hey, He-Man was good.